Ladies and gentlemen, this is huge. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. They are trying to make a fabricated, they're trying to create a fabricated talking point pertaining to President Trump. They're saying that, oh my goodness, cognitive issues. This is, of course, projection. Hit subscribe to this channel, to my super chat. Thank you. Paul Bartlett in Australia, thank you so very much. Everyone, your super chat is so greatly appreciated. Trump has already voided all documents signed by former President Biden, including the auto pen pardons. According to Yale Law School, President Trump can't really do that because, well, the president simply has the power to pardon, and that's it. The problem, however, is we don't know if Biden knew what he was doing because he was forced out. He was forced out by the Democratic Party from contending in the 2024 election. He was forced out after having won his primary in the typical Democratic Party primary fashion. They don't even have functioning primaries. He won 14 million votes, and then politically they kicked him to the curb. So this is going to go to the Supreme Court. If you look at the Biden auto pen investigation, it's unconstitutional. According to this investigation, Biden himself did not authorize these pardons, which makes it unconstitutional. Senior White House officials who did not know who operated the auto pen. They also don't know how many of the pardons got to the auto pen. Hit subscribe. This is huge. I am not accusing the doctor of any criminal activity at all. He has the right to plead the fifth, but I want you to watch the entire deposition of Biden's doctor. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of the reasons the Supreme Court almost certainly will find Biden's pardons null and void.
Deposition prior to its official release.
Really quickly, the issue is that Biden likely didn't know what he was doing. You can ask George Clooney, who basically wrote the op-ed that helped force him out of contention in 2024. Even George Clooney knew, and Hollywood, and media, and Democrats, and all the publications that propped up President Biden and catapulted him into the White House when he had the same cognitive issues in 2019, 2020. Everybody knew that because of those issues upstairs, he could not defeat Trump. Well, Harris likely did worse. But they forced him out of contention because they didn't think he had, well, these are not my words, these are the words of Democrats, the mental capacity. And so if he didn't have what it took upstairs to continue running, how on earth could his pardons be constitutional? If the rebuttal is, well, the president can order a pardon in any way, shape, or form, we don't know if Biden ordered any pardons. Hit subscribe, check it out. My super chat, thank you. Check this out. Again, I'm not accusing Dr. O'Connor or any of the people you're going to see of committing any crimes at all. They have the right under the Constitution to plead the fifth.
Can the reporter please swear in the witness?
Will you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly declare and affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go off the record. Dr. O'Connor, were you ever told to lie about the president's health?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer. I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Let the record reflect that Dr. O'Connor has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Dr. O'Connor, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician's patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer, and I must rely on my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Dr. O'Connor, Did you ever believe the president was unfit to execute his duties as president?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based on the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I'm not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Let the record reflect that Dr. O'Connor has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Dr. O'Connor, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer. I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Dr. O'Connor, is it your intention to decline to answer all questions put to you today by the committee on the basis of the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
And we can tell you that he will have the same answer with respect to any questions that are asked.
Thank you, sir. Does the minority wish to ask any questions?
We wish to give Mr. Sherlock an opportunity to make his statement, and we'd like to enter a few exhibits into the record.
Okay, go on. We'll go off the record.
Dr. O'Connor, good morning. Just wanted to note for the record that prior to your appearance for today's deposition, your attorneys raised with the majority your position that the questions posed to you today by my majority colleagues may require you to infringe on doctor-patient confidentiality.
But okay, so this is these are the Democrats explaining why he pled the Fifth, but there is no patient-doctor confidentiality when it comes to political questions like, did you lie? Were you told to lie? Nobody wants to answer that question. The interesting thing is that there were only 3 people, I believe only 3 people who pled the Fifth. Everyone else spoke. Now, the people who spoke weren't as close to Biden. Okay, so the 3 people who were closest to Biden and to Joe Biden pled the Fifth. That doesn't mean that they committed any criminal act. The issue is whether Biden himself ordered the pardons. Does anyone believe that Biden ordered every single pardon? Almost certainly, people around him did things without his knowledge. I'm not accusing Dr. O'Connor. I'm saying the question he was asked is the question. Many of the questions had nothing to do with like cholesterol level or, anything else. But let's continue.
A fundamental principle of medicine, which, as your attorneys have explained, is both long held and widely recognized. Your attorneys further explained to the majority that should you provide any answers to the majority's questions today that violate doctor-patient confidentiality, you may be in breach of your legal and ethical obligations to your patient and suffer grave professional and personal consequences from any such breach. Mr. Schertler, I understand that you had a statement you wish to make for the record, and I'd like to give you that opportunity now.
Thank you very much. Chairman Comer, Representative Crockett, and members of both the majority and minority staffs, good morning. My name is David Schertler, and along with my partner, Mark McDougall, we represent Dr. Kevin O'Connor. As you all know, Dr. O'Connor served as the physician to President Biden during President Biden's term of office from January 2021 until January of 2025. Dr. O'Connor had also been President Biden's primary care physician for 12 years before President Biden took office in January of 2021. It was Dr. O'Connor's privilege and honor to serve as President Biden's physician and as head of the White House Medical Unit. Dr. O'Connor has also served in the United States Army for over 20 years and did active tours of duty in Afghanistan and Iraq. This committee has indicated.
And God bless Dr. O'Connor. God bless this man for his service to our country. And again, I have never, and I am not accusing Dr. O'Connor of any criminal behavior. Okay? Problem here is that the President of the United States was forced out by his own political party. That leads to the obvious possibility or likelihood that many of the pardons or all the pardons or one of the pardons were not issued directly by the President of the United States of America. Again, he was forced out by his own political party. That's not Dr. O'Connor's fault. Okay, that's not this man's fault. But that's why, I mean, the people closest to him are pleading the fifth, and they have the right to do so.
Indicated to Dr. O'Connor and to us, his attorneys, that it does not intend to honor one of the most well-known privileges in our law, the physician-patient privilege. Instead, the committee has indicated to us that it will demand that Dr. O'Connor reveal, without any limitations, confidential information regarding medical examinations, treatment, and care of President Biden. Revealing confidential.
Well, no, but again, I guess if you plead the fifth, you have to continue to plead the fifth. But the questions like, was he asked to lie? That has nothing to do with patient-doctor confidentiality.
Patient information would violate the most fundamental ethical duty of any physician. It could also result in the revocation of Dr. O'Connor's medical license and could subject him to civil liability. Dr. O'Connor will not violate the oath of confidentiality to any of his patients, including President Biden. Furthermore, through the issuance of a presidential memorandum that was dated June 4th of 2025, President Trump directed the Department of Justice and the White House counsel to conduct a parallel criminal investigation into the same topics that are being investigated by this committee. In fact, just this past Sunday, Chairman Comer.
So there is an ongoing criminal probe, which makes sense to plead the fifth. Again, I don't think the doctor committed any crimes at all. Okay, the issue of criminality is the people around Biden who took it upon themselves to run the presidency. That's a crime. They were not elected president. Okay, well, I mean, there are questions pertaining to that also years earlier. But anyway, the country elected and catapulted President Biden into office. And so he was the one who was supposed to issue pardons. The problem is that, again, George Clooney, Hollywood, all the people who elevated Biden, they kicked him out after he won his primary, which was shameless, shameful, unbelievable, typical Democratic, morally superior Democrats. Biden won his primary, but because of one debate, they kicked him out, and that debate made Democrats concerned because of perceived or obvious cognitive issues. So how on earth do we know that Biden had the ability upstairs to issue those pardons, which is why we had the deposition of the doctor?
I believe you confirmed on Fox News that Pam Bondi has announced an investigation of the Department of Justice into the illegal use of the AutoPen. We believe that the committee should hold its investigation in abeyance until any criminal investigation has been conducted and completed. Nonetheless, the totality of the circumstances surrounding this committee's investigation leave Dr. O'Connor no choice but to decline to answer questions on two overlapping grounds. First, the physician-patient privilege and the physician's ethical duty of confidentiality required that Dr. O'Connor refuse to testify about any aspect of his care and treatment of President Biden. Second, a pending Department of Justice criminal investigation leaves Dr. O'Connor no choice but to invoke his constitutional right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to any questions that might be posed by the committee in this deposition. And we want to emphasize that in asserting a Fifth Amendment privilege does not imply that Dr. O'Connor has committed any crime.
It does not imply at all that, he didn't commit a crime. I don't think he committed any crimes. But the people around him likely did. If they're telling this man to lie, that's a crime. If they're signing or they're running the AutoPen without Biden's knowledge, that's a crime. The criminal behavior was conducted by people around this person, almost certainly.
In fact, to the contrary, our Supreme Court has emphasized, and I quote, "One of the Fifth Amendment's basic functions is to protect innocent men who otherwise might be ensnared by ambiguous circumstances," end of quote. For these reasons, Dr. O'Connor will respectfully decline to answer any questions that might be posed to him by the committee today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, now this is the deposition of Anthony Bernal. This is the chief of staff for Jill Biden, the first lady. Okay, listen to this.
Everyone here today that the contents of what we discuss in the deposition today is confidential under the House deposition regulations. Under the rules, the chairman and ranking minority member shall consult before any release of testimony or transcripts, including portions thereof. This means it is a violation of House and committee rules to disclose content of the deposition prior to its official release. For this reason, the marked exhibits that we will use today will remain with the court reporter so they can go into the official transcript, and any copies of those exhibits will be kept at the table or returned to us when we wrap up. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No. Jake, I have a question. Are we afforded the opportunity to make an opening statement?
No, not today. Can the reporter please swear in the witness?
Sure. Sir, would you please raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly declare and affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right. My clock reads 10:10. The majority's hour will begin now. Mr. Bernal, did you ever advise President Joe Biden to pardon his son, Hunter Biden?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
So pardoning Hunter was the only pardon where Biden knew what he was doing, almost certainly. Like, you know, pardoning Schiff and Liz Cheney and Kinzinger and the Select Committee and others, we have no clue. Why would Biden want to pardon the Select Committee? That makes no sense. Obviously, he would want to pardon his own son, obviously. So the Hunter Biden pardon is the only pardon that is I think, constitutional. The auto-pen pardons, most of the pardons were auto-pen. Hunter's was not auto-pen. Hunter's Biden signed himself. But the auto-pen pardons are unconstitutional because of the issues raised within the House Oversight Report, because of the testimony. Well, okay, they have the right to plead the Fifth, but the issue is there's no evidence that Biden himself pardoned anyone. That's why it's unconstitutional.
Thank you. We're going to go off the record real quick.
Aside from Hunter's part.
Okay, we'll go back on the record. Mr. Bernal, was President Joe Biden fit to exercise the duties of the president?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Bernal has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Mr. Bernal, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Mr. Bernal, did any unelected official or family member of President Joe Biden execute the duties of the presidency?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Bernal has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Mr. Bernal, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Mr. Bernal, did President Joe Biden ever instruct you to lie regarding his health at any time, including but not limited in your testimony to Congress today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Bernal has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Mr. Bernal, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Mr. Bernal, is it your intention to decline to answer all questions put to you today by the committee on the basis of the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination?
I can represent that that is his intention.
Thank you. Does the minority wish to ask questions?
Yes, we do.
Go off the record.
All right, we're back on the record. Would the members who just came into the room identify themselves, starting with Mr. Donald?
Myron Donalds, Member of Congress, Florida's 19th District.
And Jasmine Crockett, Texas 30.
Mr. Bernal, good morning. Mr. Sue, you weren't afforded the opportunity to make a statement by the majority. Would you like to make that statement now?
Yes, thanks very much. Chairman Comer, Ranking Member Garcia, and members of the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability. Mr. Bernal appears before you today fulfilling his obligations to the committee. An Arizona native, Mr. Bernal has served with distinction in 3 presidential administrations, most recently as Assistant to the President and Chief of Staff to the First Lady. Mr. Bernal is rightfully proud of his service to the nation. The committee has sought testimony from Mr. Bernal for nearly 2 years without any actual evidence of wrongdoing by Mr. Bernal. Most recently, the committee seeks Mr. Bernal's testimony.
The issue is not Mr. Bernal. The issue is whether Biden ordered any auto pen pardon. That's why they want. The assumption here is that the First Lady was very powerful within Biden's administration. This is the assumption. That's why they want. That's why they want this man's testimony, because he was, I believe, her chief of staff. So, you know, it's not that he is on trial. It's that the Republicans are trying to get to the bottom of how auto pen pardons were signed with or without Biden's knowledge.
Testimony based on a purported controversy regarding the use of the auto pen at the conclusion of President Biden's term. President Biden has already confirmed that he personally made all decisions concerning his grants of clemency.
Renee in Nicaragua, thank you so much for watching. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. And thank you for watching. If you're watching it around the world, thank you so very, very much. In Australia, in the Philippines, in Nicaragua, everywhere. Thank you so much for watching. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody, and a Happy New Year to everybody. God bless you all.
While the committee only recently began its auto pen investigation, the chairman has already declared that this matter is, quote, the biggest scandal in Oval Office history, end quote. In addition, on June 4th, 2025, the White House directed the Department of Justice to open a criminal investigation into this matter. The chairman has acknowledged that, quote, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has announced an investigation at the Department of Justice, so we're very interested, end quote. Under these circumstances, it is entirely appropriate and justified for Mr. Bernal to invoke his rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. In Ohio v. Reiner, the U.S. Supreme Court explained that one of the Fifth Amendment's, quote, basic functions is to protect innocent men who otherwise might be ensnared by ambiguous circumstances, end quote. The record is also clear that persons of the full range of the political spectrum in recent and historical congressional investigations have invoked their Fifth Amendment rights to decline to answer questions from Congress. Any suggestion that such an invocation is itself evidence of wrongdoing would be highly irresponsible.
There's no evidence of wrongdoing with this man or the doctor or the next lady that you're going to hear. They can plead the Fifth. The problem is that there's no evidence that exists that Biden ordered any of the auto pen pardons. So if the president didn't order the pardons, how on earth were they conducted? That's not constitutional, and it's likely criminal, not because of this man, but because of a whole bunch of people working in concert with one another. The issue is that when people plead the Fifth, there are more questions than answers. And when people plead the fifth and then you have other people talking, that is very bizarre. That incriminates, in a way, everybody. So everyone now involved faces legal consequences when you have a number of people pleading the fifth and then a number of people just talking. Well, the people talking are obviously not telling the entire truth if you have some people pleading the fifth. Likely that's the situation.
And flatly wrong, particularly from those elected to represent the people and uphold the Constitution. For these reasons, Mr. Bernal respectfully declines to answer any of the committee's questions today in today's deposition, and thank you for the opportunity to provide the statement.
I'm entering as Exhibit A an April 1st, 2025 New York Times article titled, "Trump Allied Prosecutor Looks to Undermine Biden Pardons," which describes a Justice Department investigation that, quote, uses the levers of federal law enforcement to try to harass Mr. Biden's family and allies and undermine his decisions as president while scoring political points with President Trump.
Was that a New York Times article? Oh, okay, New York Times. Okay, yeah.
End quote. I'm also going to mark as Exhibit B a May 13th, 2025 ABC News article titled, "Ed Martin, Trump's deal."
Oh, ABC News, the same station, the same company that paid $15 million along with George Stephanopoulos for defaming Trump. Okay, let's continue.
DOJ pardon attorney says he'll review Biden's outgoing pardons, which quotes Mr. Martin as saying that if the targets of his investigation, quote, can be charged, we'll charge them. But if they can't be charged, we will name them, and we will name them, end quote.
Let her hand it up for a second.
Yep. I'm also going to enter as Exhibit C a May 20th, 2025 Truth Social post by President Trump, in which President Trump describes the use of the auto pen during the Biden administration as, quote, treason at the highest level, end quote, and writes that, quote, something very severe should happen to these treasonous thugs, end quote. I'm also going to ask the court reporter to mark as Exhibit D the majority's letter to Mr. Bernal sent 2 days later. I'm entering as Exhibit E a presidential memorandum dated June 4th, 2025, which, among other things, directs the counsel to the president in consultation with the Attorney General to investigate the allegations that the majority has leveled in this matter. I'm entering as Exhibit F a June 5th, 2025 NBC News story titled, "Trump says he doesn't have evidence of any illegal auto pen use by the Biden White House."
You bet. They're reading off all of these wonderful liberal publications. Okay, the mainstream media does not view the New York Times or ABC News as liberal. They view them as mainstream. You know, But the problem is that President Trump is a two-term president. He just won a landslide victory, every battleground state and the popular vote. And yet all you've heard from the publications being cited for the past 10 years is that Trump is Satan. So what does that tell you about the credibility or legitimacy of the quotes being read? Or perhaps the fact that these are lies by omission by the publications?
And I'm entering as Exhibit G, a July 13th, 2025 New York Times article titled, Biden says he made the clemency decisions that were recorded with AutoPen. And I'm marking as Exhibit H a redacted version of a July 15th, 2025 NBC News article titled Lead Investigator into Biden's Use of an AutoPen Signed Letters with a Digital Signature. This copy has been redacted.
Again, the false equivalency is just so hilarious. The lead investigator signed copies with their own version of an AutoPen. The hypocrisy, oh my God. Like, no, the lead investigator wasn't the president of the United States being forced out by George Clooney because of cognitive issues. But we can't expect the morally superior to see distinction in anything because they're morally superior. By the way, this woman here, not accusing her of any criminal activity. She has the right, this is Annie Tomasini, she has the right to plead the fifth.
For any release of testimony or transcripts, including portions thereof. This means it is a violation of House and committee rules to disclose content of the deposition prior to its official release. For this reason, the marked exhibits that we will use today will remain with the court reporter so that they can go into the official transcript, and any copies of those exhibits will be kept at the table or returned to us when we wrap up. Do you have any questions before we begin?
Do you have any questions, Ms. Tomasini?
No.
Jake, are we permitted to make an opening statement?
No, sir. Can the reporter please swear in the witness?
Will you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly declare and affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
My clock reads 10:11, and the majority's hour will begin now. Ms. Tomasini, did you ever advise President Biden on the handling of classified documents found in his garage?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
The record will reflect that Ms. Tomasini has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Ms. Tomasini, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Ms. Tomasini, did President Joe Biden or anyone else in the White House instruct you to conceal or destroy classified material found at President Biden's home or office?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
The record will reflect that Ms. Tomasini has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Ms. Tomasini, to be clear, are you declining to answer the question?
It's important to note that when President Trump pled the fifth during the New York case regarding his businesses, that was a politically motivated trial to say that a billionaire inflated his net worth. That was thrown out of court. This is a president that potentially had other people pardoning, not this woman, I'm just saying other people pardoning others on his behalf, which is not only criminal and unconstitutional, it's un-American. So you can plead the fifth. Pleading the fifth is fine. The problem is that others didn't plead the fifth. So there are the plot thickens when certain people plead the fifth and others don't. And you had auto pens where nobody knew. People did not know who ran the auto pen. Therefore, they did not know if Biden himself ordered any of the pardons. That's the issue.
Put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Ms. Tomasini, have you ever conspired with anyone in the White House to hide information regarding the Biden family's business dealings?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
The record will reflect that Ms. Tomasini has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Ms. Tomasini, to be clear, are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Ms. Tomasini, did Joe Biden, a member of his family, or anyone at the White House ever instruct you to lie regarding his health at any time, including but not limited to in your testimony to Congress today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Tomasini has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Ms. Tomasini, to be clear, are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Ms. Tomasini, is it your intention to decline to answer all questions put to you today by the committee on the basis of the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination?
On behalf of Ms. Tomasini, I can so confirm.
And that's fine. She has the right to plead the fifth. Maybe, look, the people who pled the fifth could easily say, their defense could be, well, we never committed a crime at all. And we don't want to be ensnared, because of the activities of others around us. The issue, though, is that Biden was forced out. Trump was never forced out. He will never be forced out. Everyone who voted for him loves him or admires him or wants him in office. The Democrats did not want Biden in office. Why? Why didn't the Democrats, after he won his primary, did they disenfranchise 15 million people? I mean, the man won 14 million votes in his primary. Why did they force him out? Why?
Thank you. Does the minority have questions for the witness? We do. Okay, thank you. We'll go off the record.
We can go on the record. Good morning, Ms. Tomasini.
Good morning.
Mr. Sue, I understand you had a statement that you wish to make for the record. Would you like to do that now?
Yes, thank you very much. Chairman Comer, Ranking Member Garcia, and members of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Ms. Tomasini has fulfilled her obligations to the committee by appearing before you today. A proud native of Massachusetts, Ms. Tomasini was an accomplished college athlete at Boston University, from which she graduated. In her professional career, Ms. Tomasini has served with distinction both in nonprofit and private sectors in the greater Boston area, as well as at the White House, most recently as Assistant to the President and Deputy Chief of Staff. The committee has asked Ms. Tomasini to testify in connection with an investigation into use of the auto pen. There is no actual evidence of wrongdoing by Ms. Tomasini, and President Biden has already confirmed that he made all decisions concerning the grants of clemency at the end of his term. It is well known that there is an ongoing federal criminal investigation into this matter by the Department of Justice, ordered by the current White House. This past week, the chairman suggested that it is, quote, very possible, end quote, the investigation could generate criminal referrals to the Department of Justice. Under these circumstances, any reasonable person would seriously consider an invocation of their Fifth Amendment rights. The law is clear that there is absolutely no basis to suggest an invocation of the Fifth Amendment is evidence of wrongdoing. In Ohio,
The Fifth Amendment is not evidence of wrongdoing, necessarily, but, see, everyone else spoke. That's the problem. And he was forced out. See, others had no problem speaking. Some people want to plead the Fifth, but Biden was forced out. This is the typical outlandish scandal that the morally superior Democrats have. Private servers with top secret intelligence illegally transferred onto them for yoga. And, Hunter's laptop, 50 intelligence officials, it's Russian disinformation. These are completely outlandish scandals. Biden forced out after he won his primary. They wouldn't even let the man run for re-election. After he won Biden won the most votes in American history. How do you lose political capital in less than 4 years? How do you lose that much political capital and momentum? Did you have that momentum and political capital to begin with? That's also the question. But it was the Democrats that did this to themselves. They forced the Biden out. They should have just ran with Biden. They forced Biden out because of cognitive issues. Then they want everyone to believe that he had enough cognitive ability to pardon people. Well, nobody believes that.
Ohio v. Reiner, the U.S. Supreme Court, explained that one of the Fifth Amendment's basic functions is to protect innocent men who otherwise might be ensnared by ambiguous circumstances. In recent and historical congressional investigations, persons across the political spectrum have invoked their Fifth Amendment rights to decline to answer questions from Congress. For these reasons, Ms. Tomasini respectfully declines to answer the committee's questions in today's deposition, and thank you for the opportunity to provide this statement.
I will now ask the court reporter to mark as Exhibit A an April 1st, 2025 New York Times article titled "Trump Allied Prosecutor."
So now you're going to hear a CNN article saying Trump is the embodiment of evil and will devour the country. Then, the same. And then an MSNBC article stating that Trump tried to sell the planet to Martians. And then an Atlantic article said that Trump tried to, do the most unspeakable deeds. So you'll hear that from here on out.
Looks to undermine Biden pardons, which describes a Justice Department investigation that, quote, uses the levers of federal law enforcement to try to harass Mr. Biden's family and allies and undermine his decisions as president while scoring political points with President Trump, end quote. I would also like to ask the court reporter to mark as Exhibit B a May 13th, 2025 ABC News article titled "Ed Martin, Trump's DOJ pardon attorney, says he'll review Biden's outgoing pardons," which quotes Mr. Martin as saying that if the targets of his investigation, quote, can be charged with.
And now for an MSNBC article, Ed Martin is full of Bandini.
We'll charge them, but if they can't be charged, we will name them and we will name them, end quote. Next, I would like to ask the court reporter to mark as Exhibit C a May 20th, 2025 Truth Social post by President Trump, in which President Trump describes the use of the auto pen during the Biden administration as, quote, treason at the highest level, end quote, and writes that, quote, something very severe should happen to these treasonous thugs, end quote. Next, I'll ask the court reporter to mark as Exhibit D the majority's letter to Ms. Tomasini that was sent 2 days later on May 22nd, 2025. I will now ask the court reporter to mark as Exhibit E a presidential memorandum dated June 4th, 2025, which, among other things, directs counsel to the president in consultation with the attorney general to investigate the allegations that the majority has leveled in this matter. I'm also going to ask the court reporter to mark as Exhibit F a June 5th, 2025 NBC News story titled "Trump Says He Doesn't Have Evidence of Any Illegal Auto Pen Use by the Biden White House."
Of course there's no evidence. What do you think they're going to say? We kicked Biden out of office because, not this woman, I'm saying the Biden administration. What do you think the Biden administration is going to say? Yeah, we kicked him out because of potential cognitive issues, but don't worry. Everyone around us, paid somebody to utilize the auto pen on the president's behalf as he was walking on the beach. What does that even mean? Of course there's no evidence. That's why there's a criminal probe. Everything is so outlandish. Why did the Democrats force Biden out? They should have just ran with Biden. But it's a typical, completely preposterous political scandal that, of course, media will cover up. They covered up the Biden auto pen. They're covering up the Biden auto pen in the same manner they covered up Biden's likely mental decline. It's endless cover up. But now there's a criminal probe, so, you know.
Now I'll ask the court reporter to mark as Exhibit G a July 13th, 2025 New York Times article titled, "Biden Says He Made the Clemency Decisions That Were Recorded with AutoPen." I'm also going to ask the court reporter to mark as Exhibit H a July 15th, 2025 NBC News article titled, "Lead Investigator into Biden's Use of an Auto Pen Signed Letters with a Digital Signature."
They love that one. It has nothing to do with the auto pen. It's not the digital signature PDF file auto pen. It's nothing to do exactly with the auto pen. It's nothing to do with the auto pen. Nothing. They're like, well, you used personal email too. It's like, no, this top secret intel on servers. How did they get there? My God. It's not about the auto pen. It's about whether Biden knew the auto pen was even there. Does Biden know what an auto pen is? We don't know. Did he? The issue is whether Biden knew that a pardon was taking place for Cheney and others, for example. Likely he didn't.
This article has been redacted to remove the names of Oversight Committee staff.
And again, I'm not accusing Annie Tomasini or any of these people who pled the fifth of any criminal activity at all. The people around them, possibly.
Finally, I'm going to ask the court reporter to mark.
I'm talking about the people around them in the Oval Office, in Biden's White House, not the counsel, within the deposition, of course.
As Exhibit I, a July 16th, 2025 story in Politico regarding this investigation, which states in part, quote, House Oversight Chair James Comer said it was very possible the investigation could result in criminal referrals to the Department of Justice, end quote. We can go off the record.
All right, on the record. Ms. Tomasini, considering your invocation of the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination pursuant to the terms of the subpoena, you are excused. We'll go off the
So this is why the pardons are almost certainly unconstitutional. The Supreme Court, after the criminal trial or after the criminal probe, when people are likely or potentially indicted, the Supreme Court needs to know that the president himself pardoned the Select Committee, for example. We have no evidence that the president pardoned anyone with an auto pen, because there is nobody who will testify that they even knew who ran the auto pen. Senior White House officials did not know who operated the auto pen, and its use was not sufficiently controlled or documented to prevent abuse. Okay, they could have pardoned anyone on the planet, and Biden would have just said, trust me, and that's it. But this is why, when George Clooney forced Biden out, well, not him alone, but when he, got the ball rolling, that's what made the auto pen pardons unconstitutional.
Meanwhile, more evidence the Democratic Party's confidence in the president is waning, with the first Senate Democrat publicly calling for Biden to drop out.
Brooke Singman is here now with all the details for us. Hey, Brooke. Hey guys, yeah, that's right. And it is nice and warm in the studio today. Thank you, Ainsley. But Democratic Senator Peter Welch of Vermont becoming the first Democrat in the Senate to join that growing list of Democrat lawmakers calling on the president to step aside. Welch writing, quote, "He saved us from Donald Trump once, and he wants to do it again. He needs to reassess whether he is the best candidate to do so."
He saved us from Donald Trump. He saved us. We had a great economy. He saved us. Yeah, anti-war president. He saved us from endless wars. Oh, and this is why, again, it has nothing to do with the auto pen. Lead investigator used their own digital pen. Oh, it's nothing to do with the auto pen. It has to do with whether Biden knew the auto pen even existed and whether Biden knew that these pardons were done in his name. We have no idea if Biden understood that he was pardoning the Select Committee, for example. There's no evidence of that because they kicked him out of contention. They wouldn't even let him run for re-election. And it wasn't just George Clooney. It was the entire Democratic Party, the same Democratic Party that kicked out their president, our president, the American president, is the same Democratic Party that wants you to trust that he knew what he was doing with the auto pen or that he even knew an auto pen existed.
So, in my view, he is not. Now, a total of 10 Democrats have now come out against President Biden, telling him to withdraw from the race. And Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer doesn't see the harm in Biden taking a cognitive test. Listen.
As some people have suggested, just go ahead and take a cognitive test and demand that Donald Trump do the same?
I don't think that'd hurt, to be honest. But at the end of the day, you know,
so you think that he should take a cognitive test?
I don't think it would hurt.
Top Hollywood stars who previously backed the president are now also suggesting Biden step aside, including George Clooney, who headlined that fundraiser with the president just a few weeks ago. Now, in a new op-ed, Clooney is writing, quote, "The Joe Biden I was with 3 weeks ago at the fundraiser was not the Joe big expletive deal Biden of 2010. He wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed at the debate." Now, a Biden campaign source telling the New York Times that the president stayed for over 3 hours at that fundraiser while Clooney took a photo and quickly left. This is the same fundraiser where former President Barack Obama appeared to usher Biden off the stage after it looked like he froze. Back to you.
God bless Joe Biden. I'm not a wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat who's always apoplectic and hysterical. And frothing at the mouth, you know, thinking of the Orange Menace, President Trump, okay? Biden is the American president. Did he commit crimes? Likely. With graft and bribery in his it was not even Hunter's laptop, it's really Joe Biden's laptop. But anyway, the issue is that I feel for this man. Everyone feels for Joe Biden, and everyone who isn't like a completely indoctrinated artificial intelligence, morally superior liberal Democratic Party robot that is like, you know, can't stand Trump. You know, they get this like Pavlovian response to Trump. It's like, I want Biden to have a long and happy life and be healthy. I don't want, God bless him. I feel terrible that he has to be, you know, escorted off the stage. But this is the reason why there are questions and the issues pertaining to the auto pen. It's not constitutional if the president himself doesn't know the auto pen is pardoning people. It's not constitutional when other people pardon individuals on behalf of the president. That's illegal.
You guys.
All right, Brooke, thank you very much. And see, that's the worry about tonight. You know, as we have heard from the president of the United States for a couple of years, he goes, watch me, watch me. 2 weeks ago tonight was the night of the debate, and we watched him, and it was horrifying. And there are a number of, according to the Washington Post this morning, there are a number of Democratic lawmakers who are holding their breath because they feel that if he has a bad performance, and a lot of them are pulling for him to have a bad performance, so he wakes up and smells the coffee and goes, you know, you're right. I shouldn't be doing that.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I have to defend the president. I think this is all wrong. All these leaks that are coming out and all the people that have witnessed him before, and then they decided that they were still going to be with him. They have said publicly, remember, they criticized us for playing the video of that same event where President Barack Obama is escorting him off a stage
let's go.
like a little toddler. And so for you,
Like a big boy.
like a big boy. So all of these people had his back before and were with him, and now they want him to get out of the race.
Typical Hollywood. Typical Hollywood. These are the morally superior people judging others. They even betrayed the president they catapulted into the office. I mean, you see what's taking place in Hollywood right now. It's typical Hollywood. Okay. Nobody's perfect, but the level of depravity in the wonderful, morally superior, world of Hollywood is just unbelievable. And look what they did to Biden. I mean, they betrayed him. It was unbelievable. So what if you rolled with him for 4 years. You knew that he had cognitive issues going into 2020. So then you had to kick him out. Well, that was so embarrassing. And again, it is the basis for the criminal probe into Biden's auto pardons. If Biden was forced out because he didn't have the cognitive ability to be president in 2025, then how on earth did he have the cognitive ability to pardon anybody?
I mean, look, I've been very clear. I think that he should resign as president right now because I don't think he can govern right now. But on the face of this, I feel like they're all being cowards. If you believe this strongly, then have the 25th Amendment. Don't base it based on now that you guys are going to lose. I think it's disloyal of them. I think it's hypocritical of them. And I think that they hid this all from the American people. So when you go see him in a movie now, remember this. Remember all the people in the cabinet that are now coming out saying, oh, yeah, we haven't been able to meet with him. It's crazy.
So George Clooney, they tried to get George Clooney to pull back on this editorial, and he wouldn't. But they did come out with a response. This Annie Corney says, Biden is fighting back on Clooney from a source familiar with the event. The president stayed there for 3 hours while Clooney took a photo quickly and left.
That picture
so
right
basically, how would he know? Clooney is mad because Joe Biden condemned the International Criminal Court, which his wife works on, for indicting Netanyahu. Says, you got to be kidding me. So he called up the White House and was mad prior to that. And you wonder if he was still going to do it. And what courage does it take? Now, Rob Reiner says it's sad, I got to go. And Michael Douglas goes, it's really sad, I got to go. For Dave, okay, go ahead.
This is what I'm noticing after reading all of the events, all the sound bites from people over the last 24 hours, if not more. When I came in this morning, the overall theme is they all knew it behind the scenes.
That's right.
George Clooney said he knew it.
We've been talking about it for years.
We have been for years. But they told us.
Everyone knew George Clooney is not the arbiter of reality. He's just a, great movie star. That's it. And so when he wrote the op-ed, it's not like he suddenly had the courage. Like, it's hilarious. Jake Tapper is like, oh, it's so courageous of you. Like, no, everyone knew. Everyone knew. And then suddenly Hollywood makes it into, well, that one debate performance. Oh my God, it was one debate. No, it was an entire 4 years, and even an election preceding that. I mean, it's like unbelievable. We all knew.
It was deep fakes, that we were editing videos. George Clooney says when he was at the fundraiser weeks ago, he knew it. Yet he still raised tens of millions of dollars, kept his mouth shut until now when everyone's talking, till after the debate. Then you have this former advisor to Obama, John Favreau, who is saying that he's calling on the president to quit. He says it didn't surprise any of us. We were all talking about this at the fundraiser, saying the same thing, except for the people who are working for Joe. So he was another one who kept his mouth shut until now. Chuck Todd, who said he talked to a senior cabinet member who told him 2 years ago they didn't think that Biden can continue as president. Yeah. So the theme is they all knew it, right, and they kept their mouth shut and thought and let America believe, the Democrats believe, or people that watch other channels, that he was fine and
they made the president think that as well. Right. They've been telling him everything is fine. Imagine, all of us have had family members that have dealt with some sort of mental health decline as they advance in age. Imagine not being honest with them and then suddenly one day deciding, when everybody turns their back against the person, that there's something wrong.
Well, yesterday was a big day.
That's not right.
The momentum started with Nancy Pelosi. And Nancy Pelosi goes, essentially, is that your final offer? And then you have Chuck Schumer apparently behind the scenes telling donors, I'm okay with him not being at the top of the ticket. And then you have George Clooney. It seems like it was all in the same day. And then a bunch of the dam has broken in Hollywood.
Well, it was led by the Obama bros.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian.
All right, so the criminal probe will make the pardons obsolete. When it gets to the Supreme Court, you'll already have either indictments or a whole bunch of evidence showing that Biden did not know the people he was pardoning. Anyway, hit subscribe. God bless you all. Thanks for an amazing live stream. Hit subscribe if you're new to my super chat. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody here. Thank you. See you this evening for the next live stream. Thank you. Be here on the channel throughout the day. I should